Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the Cardinal rotation, isn't going to make it through this season. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, Nate H.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, we've got an absolute packed show today. No doubt about it. We just got done.
To the gills, Nate. To the gills.
We are packed to the gills. What does a bird equivalent of a gill? We both have good questions.
Is this like, are people stuffing fish with things?
Yeah, maybe. What do you stuff a fish
the bird
with?
equivalent, we're up to our beak.
Up to our beak.
Our wings have been clipped with so much show.
We have so much stuff. Our wings have been clipped. We can't. We're so encumbered. We can't possibly fly with all of this stuff to do.
We're penguined out right now. Never could fly. Actually,
never could fly. Just rolling around on our little cute bellies. All right. We want to get to our interview. We just got off the call with Nick Pollack from PitcherList. It was awesome. Super excited to share it with everyone listening or watching the show. But before we get to that, we just one quick set of business. The feud is back on Hambone. I don't know if you listened to it, but on Meet Me at Mutual, C70's show, he had what I thought was friend of the show, Jake Wood, on the show. And they proceeded to trash us. Mostly about how we spent 10 minutes talking about the Emmys. And what I'm here to say is, you fools, it wasn't the Emmys, it was the Academy Awards. So if you're going to come at us, make sure you get it right, okay? You come at the king, you best not miss.
Might be a new thing for that show.
It might be a new thing for that show. Maybe do a little research before you just start talking, okay? It's the Oscars, not the Emmys. Okay. Anyway.
Got him.
At least they're... What do you think? They make up like 90% of our listener base?
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. All right, we're gonna talk about some news from the Cardinals, and we're gonna continue our breakdown of the rest of the NL Central. But now we're going to play our interview with Nick Pollack. Hopefully you enjoy it. Here we go. Joining us this week is founder of PitcherList.com, Nick Pollack. Nick, thank you so much for being here.
What is happening? Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, really appreciate you making time for us. So as the resident fantasy baseball player on the podcast, I kind of hate to tap the tank of the people I'm playing against. And if they didn't already know about your site, I'm kind of exposing one of my primary resources here, but I've been a huge fan for a long time. And even for our listeners that are not necessarily fantasy oriented, I think it's a really awesome resource for people who are just fans of pitching. And there's a whole hitting side of it as well, but clearly, yeah, I think the bread and butter is the pitching, the daily recaps, everything. A normal routine of mine during the regular season is the morning check of the yesterday's recap on PitcherList.com. So yeah, super excited to have you.
I appreciate that. And also I hope everyone could be like you, that I hear like our community members saying, oh man, I want to share you, but like, I don't want people to know. And if all of you just shared it, the things that we could give you would be so much more. No, thanks so much for having me. I mean, I'm just a pitching nut. I'm really lucky to have this incredible staff that talks about everything else outside of starting pitching that allows me just to only focus on that one thing. So I'm a lucky guy. I get to do it. And look, here I am on this show, guys. This is crazy.
Well, hey, we have a Talking About Birds fantasy league. This year it's a 14 team head-to-head 5x5, mostly standard, except for we did quality starts instead of wins. And I wanted to ask you a question. We got a member of the league here who's taken the bold strategy of being incredibly on brand to the podcast purpose and drafting only St. Louis Cardinals. Now we're in the 19th round of this 14 team draft. Luke and Baker's off the board. What do you think their chances are of taking it down in 2025? Is that a strategy you recommend?
I mean, you can do this for me. Come on. I mean, it's no. As far as fantasy relevant starting pitchers, right, that I can really talk about here, obviously Sonny Gray should be productive. And, quality start focus. So, I mean, even though Miles Michaelis is Miles Michaelis and Eric Fede is Eric Fede, fine. But Quinn Matthews is actually really interesting. And that's going to be fun. But no, I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry, C70. So it's really like a 13-team league with a 14th team just slotting in there.
Just can't get Quinn Matthews, unfortunately.
You don't think Palante in the 11th is value? I think that's a good pick.
I mean, you guys have been tracking Palante this spring. He's 2 ticks down, and it's also less movement. Like normally you see when you have lower velocity on a pitch that relies on movement, it means that it comes with more drop, which would be expected, more movement to it. This is a cut fastball that really is like a cutter, and it has less drop and less horizontal cut, but it's also 2 ticks down. It's a problem, and I do wonder if the Cardinals are going to keep Palante in that rotation just because, like, you are not the same guy at this point. I think they will just be like, whatever, we're the Cardinals. Let's go.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Palante goes down, they should just re-sign Kyle Gibson. What the heck? Why not? Right?
Oh, God. I don't know. Well, hopefully we're not there just yet. But, yeah.
Palante's confusing because he was struggling with his, like, good stuff last year. He was struggling to strike people out. And
that's not his game, though, right?
Well, it should be, though, I think, right? Like, shouldn't that be what we're aiming for?
Well, I mean, right, but with the Palante, because it's a cut fastball like this, it's just a really hard to hit fastball. Like, think of it like, I mean, really, we should just be calling that pitch a cutter. And it's like Drew Rasmussen in this way before he had an amazing slider to go with it. And Palante doesn't really have, I think, the greatest secondaries. Sure, there's a little bit of a breaker in there. That's really his number 2, but it's really just, hey, get outs with this 4-seamer. And that's kind of the whole tactic of the Cardinals, let's be honest. Hey, let's get outs with our 4-seamer however possible. So I don't have any expectations for Palante to take a leap until either he cuts back on the 4-seamer and then adds some secondary for whiffs. But when it's going to be that focus of that cut fastball, then it's going to be a low strikeout performance.
Yeah, I've been hoping for him to add a splitter or something like that, which is the most popular pitch in baseball right now for strikeouts. But doesn't seem like that's in the playbook this summer. No. I mean, last year his underlying metrics looked pretty good. There was some real hope coming into 2025 that maybe the surface stats would start to match the underlying a little bit better. But like you've said, spring, it doesn't look like it's going in that direction right now.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I'm so sorry, guys.
This was the bright.
That's what we were looking for. We were looking for an apology.
Yeah, you need something though. Like you needed something to latch onto, and maybe it's Quinn Matthews. Maybe.
Yeah. So we primarily have had like Cardinal fans and Cardinal writers and whatnot on the podcast, and you taking a more MLB level view. I know it's a silly question, but I just got to get your take on the Cardinals offseason. Like from your lens, I know it's like they forgot the assignment.
What offseason? Nate,
right?
Did they? I feel like the Cardinals are. They are the student in class who forgot the exam was today.
Yeah.
I'm trying to even see what they did. Nick Anderson, Michael Hellman. What? That's it? Roderick Munoz? You got him off of waivers from the Marlins. Mm-hmm. Congrats.
Yeah.
Actually, Hellman. You are going to get starts from Munoz this year, by the way, and maybe it's okay.
You think so? Yeah, Hellman competing for the 26th man spot right now. Nick Anderson, we'll see if he's healthy. Was good in 2019. That we'll see.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
So the part of the reason the Cardinals ended up in this place is they're trying to walk this line between a development year because we had some big pieces walk, like Paul Goldschmidt, which opened up some at bats. But they also refuse to ever enter a season saying we're not going to win the championship. Every year the Cardinals have to say we got a shot. Come, please, dear God, please come to Busch Stadium. we promised there might be a winner. And this year it feels more desperate than years past, but they're taking that approach. So with what we have, Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, probably Palante, and probably Steven Matz. Do you view that as a competitive starting rotation?
No, not at all. And the thing is, honestly, I mean, I'm sure you guys have suggested this. There's no way you haven't, but you should be sending Arenado and Sonny Gray to the Yankees right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you gotta do it.
Sonny Gray, I've been with all the pitching injuries to the Yankees. It certainly seems like they're going to be on the market. But Sonny Gray has a no trade clause. And
there's no way he's getting dealt to the Yankees. I forgot about. How did I forget about this?
Yeah, he is currently
hates New York. Remember?
Not a chance is that happening. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we think maybe Eric
it's so
Fetty,
because it's like the perfect fit at a higher on paper level. And then you're like, wait, the Yankees, by the way, you want to know why he hates the Yankees? And he's totally right. You might know this. Do you know what advice the Yankees gave Sonny Gray when he was pitching?
I don't remember this, no.
Okay, so Sonny Gray, just a quick breakdown for you guys. This is from my perspective of what Sonny Gray does and how he gets his outs. He also actually has a kind of a cut fastball. It's really cool. He throws it inside of lefties really well. Has a lot of spin, but it's really not towards strikeouts. It's actually toward going down and in toward a lefty, right? So his whole game is like, cool, I want to sit there inside with him and then stay away from righties as well. And then he has this comeback two-seamer against really a sinker, but two-seamer. I'm old school a little bit with that because it doesn't sink much. Against right-handers, which, by the way, was like, I think the most efficient sinker in two strike counts to get strikeouts than any other sinker in baseball. And just as a reference point, guys, what we normally see in sinkers is like a 20% of the time. It's called the put-away rate in two strike counts. Sonny Gray's was 40.
Nice.
No one is at, I didn't see any other pitch at 40.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen again. And then you have, of course, a sweeper that he became more comfortable throwing against left-handers, which is weird because throwing sweepers, you generally don't see success with them to opposite-handed batters. The ball is going into them at a slower velocity. Generally means you can wrap around it and you're going to crush it down the line. And Sonny Gray got really good at locating that pitch down in underneath that nitro zone for lefties, where it's out of the zone and guys will swing over that. That was also a really high put-away rate. Those are the major two things. But I want to go back to the four-seamer. High spin, yes, but it's cut. So that's not a pitch you throw upstairs. That's something you pitch along the edges and you try and do that kind of thing. And the Yankees, I kid you not, the Yankees told Sonny Gray, throw your four-seamer upstairs because it has a lot of spin. Not understanding what spin efficiency is, or otherwise known as active spin. Those are the two, they're synonymous. And all that means is, sure, it's spinning, but is it spinning in the right direction? Is it spinning in a way that is good for a fastball or good for a slider? They're absolutely opposite. Thing like perpendicular of a fastball is going toward the plate while a slider is going from one batter's box to the other. Okay? Like that's like a gyro slider. And that's really what Sonny Gray was doing. But the Yankees are like, oh no, high spin. So it's a four-seamer. So like that means it's a good spin. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, guys. Like no wonder you want to get out of there.
Yeah. You normally hear people wanting to get out of the Yankees, out of New York for more like tertiary reasons, like fans and the spotlight and all that. I can appreciate the real like deep inside pitching strategy side of Sonny Gray, just saying, get me away from these coaches. You don't hear that nearly as much.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it
well, he wants to stay with the Cardinals. So
Jordan Montgomery had a similar complaint. Obviously, a different type of pitcher.
Yeah, what is it with the Yankees of like the guys who are on the market now? They're like, nah, man, we tried that.
Yeah, he's an interesting one to see. You have to imagine it's gonna be a better year for him in Arizona this year than last year.
He's not in the rotation, Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah,
you guys might get him. I don't know. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, he had he was good for us with the Cardinals, and was a part of the package that got Tekoa Roby, who is starting to look a little bit better this spring than last year.
Is that right? That was the Tekoa Roby deal from the Rangers, huh?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I was monitoring him in the spring. I haven't seen him for ages. I remember actually just the eye test. I really liked the fact that he's over the top and felt like it had a good north-south command to him and a big curveball. You don't traditionally see the classic like 80 mile per hour curveball and 95 fastball working anymore.
Hmm.
If the curveball works, it has to be like 85, really, 83, 85. I think Takoa was flirting with that a little bit on his curve, maybe not, but his four seamer is way better. I was
Hmm.
hearing reports of like 92, 94 before this year, and then now, I mean, he's gone through injuries and stuff, but that looks like a very legitimate fastball. You don't need to know all the pitch metrics that I follow, like vert and IVB and extension and attack angle and stuff. I'm happy to explain all of those if you want, but just know that Takoi Roby has good metrics on it that suggest that it's not what I call empty velocity. That is, you can throw hard like Jordan Wicks, but why aren't you getting all the whiffs all the time? Because you don't have the shape and the extension and all these extra elements that turn those into whiffs, like Sonny Gray's fastball,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
We've had a number of guys that have had that, like, you just watch them. It looks like they should be striking everybody. Yeah, you said Jordan
Joe
Hicks.
Kelly.
We think of Joe Kelly was exactly who I was going to say as well. Was another guy where the Cardinals, throwing near 100, especially a little bit before so many people were doing it. So it never made any sense that he wasn't striking everyone out. But it's just, if it's flat, any major league hitter can catch up to it.
Yeah, it's funny because also flat means two things now to me. One is like flat as far as vert, like how much rise it gets. You want more of that, so it's a flat fastball. It's not good. But flat is also attack angle, and that essentially means like how low are you when you're throwing it, so that the angle the ball goes over the plate, is it along the same angle that batters are swinging at, right? So I think you guys know this. I don't know if everyone listening does, but it's essentially the swing angle of the bat. You want the ball not to intersect with the bat, essentially. So the flatter you are top of the zone, it's going to have fewer intersection points. And if it's really steep, that means like Miles Michaelis, has like the most hittable four-seamer.
We had he led
Ever.
the league last year in meatball percentage, which a
Yeah.
fun StatCast stat there. You never want to be high on the meatball list.
Yeah, we have
Unless,
we
I
have
guess
this
if you're like at a
percentage
pasta
at
house or
PitcherList,
something.
which is 2 times the chance of allowing a hit. And you know what? I probably have Miles Michaelis right here. Yeah, he was 195th percentile across the top 200 starting pitchers and batters faced.
Oh
last year.
my god.
So
Yeah.
195th,
Well,
not percentile.
you
I'm sorry,
mean
just 195th. Yeah,
88
11.5%
down the middle isn't an effective way to
God.
get big league hitters out.
The league average mistake rate for a four-seamer is 7%. So you throw like a 7% of the time, like one in I don't know, like that number. One in like 15 or something like that are going to be kind of like
Yeah.
not good fastballs. Okay, 17% for Miles Michaelis' four-seamer.
Almost 1 in 5 are a mistake pitch. So
Oh my gosh.
almost every at bat, really, you're gonna
Yeah, there
get
you go.
one.
Just take enough and you're gonna get it.
So
Oh, no.
yeah,
Sorry, Miles.
we've been. I know. We've been lamenting. I guess it's simply that he's owed $17 million is the reason that he is in the Cardinals rotation this year, and there is some lens on like quality starts and things like that, but we're not big fans of keeping him in the rotation. It doesn't make a lot of sense to
On
us
the
'cause
team.
there are.
On the team.
Or-
He
yeah,
shouldn't
on the
be on the
team.
team.
Yeah.
He should be somewhere else.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is money, and it's like,
Yeah.
look, in the Cardinals situation, I'm going to be honest, from an outsider's perspective, this feels like, okay, they're just trying to field a team.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't matter. Until Miles Michaelis is putting up a 7 ERA and just every game is 5 earned runs, 6 earned runs, which it won't be, because the thing that is good about Miles Michaelis is that he throws strikes. And if
Yeah.
you throw enough strikes, you generally are going to find enough outs. It's just how it is. He still has a good enough slider, and he'll survive enough. It was a 5.35 ERA last year, fine, but it shouldn't be a 7. And as long as he's doing that, they'll just say like, we already invested this money, we have this thing, we're just going to do that.
Yeah. Well, there are some guys that we're pretty excited about though for the future of the Cardinals. We're not quite sure if we'll see them in 2025 yet, though we suspect both will make their debuts this year. Quinn Matthews and Tink Hence If you had to pick one of those two as a future big league starter, who are you going with?
Easily, it's Quentin Matthews. And I thought it was Tink Hence before.
Yeah.
I'm an interesting one. I like to think. I don't know. I'm not that interesting. But I initially came into this profession creating a site called Pitcher Gifts in 2014 that got shut down by MLB. And the idea with that was that my friends were beating me in fantasy baseball for a bit because I was a pitcher through college and they never played baseball. And they were beating me, and I was really upset because I knew the eye test. I could identify guys who were good just by watching them and understanding what was consistent or not. But they had Fangraphs, and I had my Fangraphs Enlightenment in 2011, and then I won the next couple of years, right? And I understood how to do both. But then I realized the fantasy community was not at all appreciating the eye test. It was just the tables. So I created Pitcher Gifts, and it was a gift database of every single pitcher in the majors. And we still have that. If you go to our player pages, you will see every single pitcher and a GIF for every pitch type that they have. So you can just see it. And of course, all the data and all the savant data in a way that you can actually read it with percentiles and averages and stuff. It's essentially the site I need for myself, for my own analysis. So I made
Yeah.
it, okay?
It's incredibly helpful. You can just look up a player's name too, and it gives you anything and everything you want about them, which is
so
good
fun.
also for fantasy, and also just, again, I use it just for like prep for this show sometimes.
Absolutely. You want to see who these pitchers are that the Cardinals are facing. Like, just come on by and you'll actually see them, right?
Yeah.
And with Quinn Matthews, he's a great case of the importance of watching a game, because I watched him in the spring, and not only is he throwing harder and throwing a better shape fastball than I expected, I had good data on it. It's one of the things that we have for our premium members is like the StatCast data live and all these cool things about it. And I'm like, thank gosh that he pitched in a place that actually had good data instead of all the other parks that are like game day. It's so annoying. Anyway, I'm rambling. Quinn Matthews looks like a guy who is in control of his at-bats, right? He is someone that is like, okay, cool. It's 1-1. I'm throwing this fastball. I missed a little bit. Okay, I get it. I'm going to adjust in this one. I'm going to finagle whatever it is, the situation, and get out of it. He certainly had that presence, and subconsciously, I challenge everybody watching baseball, just subconsciously, you'll know if you think this guy is going to get the batter out or not. You feel like, who has the momentum in this moment? Is it the hitter or is it the pitcher? And I use this a ton to feel like, I feel like he's going to succeed here. And Quinn Matthews gave me that because he had this really good fastball, this changeup, and slider that are like, this is a really good mix here. I think correct me if I'm wrong, the changeup is the third one right now, if I got that right, with the slider being a bigger thing. But I feel like that changeup should be solid. And the fastball, really, that was the one I didn't expect. I thought the slider was going to be good, but I didn't know the fastball would really be able to overwhelm. Now, Tink Hence is still raw. And that is a pitcher, mold that I've seen a decent amount, which is these guys with really good stuff, and you can see it. You see a pitch and go, it jumps off. But then the at-bats are a struggle. It's not, there are certainly those games where he's just like, I got this. But Hence is fighting himself constantly with every pitch, right? He's not as nuanced with every going to the utility belt to pick a new pitch and throwing this one in that case, or going around the zone or whatever. He's like, I've got good stuff and I just got to make this stuff work. And I have less faith in those guys than I do someone with a high enough floor of stuff, which Quinn Matthews does, and then that extra command that is actual command and not control. So I'm a little worried about Hence, honestly, at the moment. I wish I wasn't, because first of all, that name is the best. Hence he came. Like, come on. But in Tink,
it's a great combo.
Yeah, he only has to allow one earned run a game though, because then he's the tinkerer. But that's it, just one. But yeah, it's Quinn Matthews, and I think actually you should see Quinn Matthews pretty soon. My understanding, and I hope you guys will educate me here, is that with the Cardinals right now, they have their 5, but let's say Palante gets replaced or something like that. I see it as either McGreevy or Matthew Liberatore. I kind of hope it's Liberatore, but then again, Liberatore is like showcases promise, and he doesn't. and has even in the spring. He was like 96.5, and the next game is like 94.5. I'm like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
And I hope that they don't really think those guys are real long-term options while Quinn Matthews is. So there's also the case of the Cardinals, as you know, right? You guys don't like pushing prospects. You like taking it slow, going through the pen. Alex
Just
Reyes.
burn them out. Make sure they just never reach their potential. That's the St. Louis Cardinal way.
It's and if you guys are, I don't know if you guys are seeing this on video, if you're only just hearing us, but I have behind me Chris Carpenter and Sandy Alcantara at the Cardinal, and I almost put Alex Reyes because man, I wish that was going to work out. And I feel like you guys toyed with him too much. So
yeah, I think we have a
long
Cardinal history of that.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Jack Flaherty was kind of toyed with a bit too.
Yeah, I think you brought up Jordan Hicks earlier, and if you remember, his development was skipped because Yadier Molina requested that he be a part of the bullpen when he was 20 years old, which, didn't end up working out for the St. Louis Cardinals, and looks like it's probably going to work out very well for the San Francisco Giants. And here we are.
We'll see. Yeah. You mentioned Liberatore.
Right. I think that they could have maybe turned Hicks into something different if he had that development 100%.
I think you're right. Most are projecting McGreevy is likely the next up if either Palante or Matz are hurt or ineffective. And then well, we want to talk about Matz, but let's stick with the more fun, younger, exciting players for now. So you mentioned Liberatore. He was part of the Randy Arozarena deal, another fabled trade in Cardinal history. But at the time, a lot of people saw it as sort of a coup for the Cardinals because Liberatore was such a high-end pitching prospect. Those are rarely moved at that time in their development, and it just continues to bounce between the rotation, starting minors, and just in that Cardinal malaise that we've seen so many pitchers find themselves in. So what's your take on Liberatore? He has been looking pretty good in this spring, and he's generally looked good out of the bullpen, but I think a lot of us, myself included, still hold on to hope for him as a starting pitcher for the Cardinals, and there will certainly be opportunity this year.
Yeah, Matthew Liberatore, when I have seen him have success, it really has been on the back of the four-seam slider combo, right? It's being able to spot that fastball effectively and at 95 to 96. And that's just not what we've really gotten this spring, say for like one game. It was 96.5, and I was like, okay, there it is. There's the thing that we're kind of looking for. And then it went back to 94.5, I think yesterday, or it was 2 days ago, if not that. And that's not it. I also have a huge belief in lefties needing a changeup these days, unless you have a good mix otherwise, or you just have something overpowering. Because we've seen this constantly of lefties that actually become amazing are the ones like Cole Reagans and Tarek Skubal, who have these changeups that righties are treating like it's a slider, It's just so debilitating to them. And yeah, unless you get that, you got to deal with the slider down and in, which is such a risky proposition. You can do it. You just got to do it not like Jesus Luzardo, who throws it in the middle of the zone sometimes and it gets crushed, but it also has a high swing strike rate. To risk reward, right? You need that changeup to really nullify it. So without that, it's going to be kind of hard, and he needs that four-seamer to really steer the ship. But at 94.5, that's not it.
Yeah, I think especially with the injury to Zach Thompson, Liberatore's most likely going to, most likely.
Zach Thompson. I thought he was kind of cool.
We like Zach Thompson as well, but he's another one of those guys just sort of caught in between. Good stuff at times, very hittable at times. Can't really keep it consistent, and now is hurt, likely out for a month or two. So we'll see.
What's your take on Drew Rom? I look at the laughter. Oh God.
Well, he threw 0 pitches in 2024 and was the sacrificial starter at the end of the 2023 season as the Cardinals were attempting to lose as many games as possible. So we're not super high on him right now.
At the end of 23, he went on a serious heater in AAA, and I think he had like 3 or 4 starts, gave up like 1 run. But then he came up to the big leagues and we actually watched him pitched. And like you're talking about, like a lefty with all of his pitches kind of coming in on a righty and his fastball topping at like 89. There was some really, really bad starts against some mediocre teams at the end of the season. It wasn't great.
With Rom, you wish he had short-term memory. And it's not fun. I mean, what's so wild to me about Drew Rom is he has a four-seamer slider sinker, but what he does is he has an arm angle that's up like normal for his four-seamer and slider, and then he goes sidearm for his sinker.
I did not pick up on that. That is very interesting.
It is very interesting. It's almost like there's a reason why no one else does that.
Yeah.
Because
pretty sure that's a core part of
go to your side, it's the sinker, not the fastball. And the whole purpose of throwing that sinker is so that it looks like the fastball, the four-seamer. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I guess if like you're going against lefties and you're only throwing against lefties, then you're not going to throw the four-seamer anyway, and they know it's a sinker, so then you have the different arm angle against them. You maybe get more horizontal ride there, but I've never seen that before. And then the slider and sinker would then be different arm angles, and you don't really want that. Look at Nick Pivetta with his sweeper and four-seamer, and that explains his troubles a lot. And it's because the sweeper is much lower than the high four-seamer. So, Drew Rom, I'm really sorry. Zach Thompson and Drew Rom are kind of like the same time for me. So I hear Thompson, and then I hear Rom. But yeah, I'm sorry you guys have dealt with this. This is just the apology, guys. This is the
I know
hands.
Yeah,
and
this is nice though. It's nice to have the empathy, for us as pitching fans and being also fans of the St. Louis Cardinals. One last guy in the rotation. We mentioned him several times now. Steven Matz, our best take on why he's in the rotation currently is the hope that he rebuilds some trade value and maybe there's a place for him to be moved at mid-season. Do you think he has any trade value? Is there any future value returning to the Cardinals from Steven Matz?
There absolutely could be. He's not too far removed from a 3.86 ERA in 2023. And he was hurt last year. And I just talked about, hey, you need to have a good changeup against right-handers, and there is potential in this one. Our stat, PLV, which essentially grades a pitch from 0 to 100, is a 53. Like, that's actually really good. It generally ranges from like 40 to 60. So it's an above average changeup. It's 70th percentile, actually, to right-handers. And that's cool. He separates it with a sinker going upstairs, which is really weird. It's a strange one to me. And then against lefties, back in the day, I was so obsessed with Steven Matz. I thought like he was going to be the next big thing for the Mets. Quick trivia question, guys. How many seasons in all of Steven Matz's career since 2015 has Steven Matz had a WHIP of 120 or better?
God.
Let's think.
I feel set up. I'm going to say 1.
Okay. Nate?
I'll go 3.
The answer, 0.
That was my first. I was thinking 0, but I felt like,
right?
All right, yeah.
0.
Yeah.
He's never done this because he just allows so many hits. When you think about WHIP, it's either you have a higher walk rate or you have a higher hit per 9.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a high walk rate. It's only been one season above an 8%. It's just been these horrible hit per 9s.
Yeah.
And it's because he gets hit by this sinker all day. And the curveball / slider to lefties just is not a big whiff pitch. Really, if you're a lefty, you have to have a slider or breaking ball. Something. You should. Lefties are just more susceptible to this than any. And nope, it's like a 15% swing strike around that slider to lefties. That actually, what I was really getting at before was that he got Tommy John, if you remember, or he had like elbow problems. And what he said was that, I throw my slider and it hurts my elbow. That was like 2017 coming back for 2018. I was like, oh gosh,
that's not a good sign.
You're not like, that's why you were good in 2016. Yeah. That's when you had a 24% K rate and a 121 whip. So close. So yeah, Matz is going to get trade value. It's going to be because he's healthy for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And the changeup is cooking and he's not getting too burned by the sinker. I guess my question would be, and this is actually the most important thing with the Cardinals. How good is your defense?
Depends on where you hit it.
Okay.
So, Mason Wynn, right, looks like one of the future Gold Glove. We thought he had a chance at it this year. And center field should be good. Arenado at third. And then, don't hit it to right field. Jordan Walker Ben.
Infield is good. Outfield is bad, put very simply. And catcher is fine.
Okay. So infield's above average, though, right?
I would say so.
Should be.
Good, because obviously Steven Matz has been a ground ball pitcher in the past. And if he is going to have success, I think this year, it's going to be based on just getting some good BABIP luck along the way here and preventing that hit per nine, right? And that's the outcome I see of Steven Matz providing value. You have him making regular starts and he's not hurt for whatever reason, then, or at least if he is hurt, he's hurt early and then comes back in June and looks good. And then the changeup is cooking a little bit against right-handers. He finds out some way, maybe just to jam that sinker inside to lefties instead of staying away. Guys, why do pitchers like to throw sinkers away to same-handed batters? I don't get this, especially for a guy like Matz who needs every single out he could possibly get. It's also been the Cardinals' way in the past. If you throw those sinkers inside, you get those quick outs. It's like the Pirates. So why is he throwing sinkers away? Why?
He's afraid. Maybe he's afraid is why.
Or they're hoping for the same sort of bad contact on a slider, right? Like get him out over like extended, hit it straight down. I don't know. You're the pitching expert.
Sinkers, by the way, to lefties last year.
Yeah. I don't know.
The Cardinals also have admitted that they really haven't had a pitching game plan since Yadier Molina left. So I think people are just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Wasn't there a season you had like your GM, like the manager all of a sudden or something like that? What was it? It was, I know the Marlins did for a second, but wasn't there another weird coach at one point?
No.
No, I'm being stupid.
We fired Schilt because of and then we brought in Ali Marmol.
Before Schilt, who was it?
It was Mr. Matheny.
Mike Matheny.
Okay, and before that?
Tony La Russa.
Oh, okay.
And then 25 years before that. Well, they are in a weird. It is a transition year for the Cardinals in that strange way.
Retooling, transition. Not a rebuild. Definitely not a rebuild.
Even the players themselves are using the like winter warm up fan fest over the winter. Sonny Gray didn't even know what to call. He was asking the reporters what we should be calling the 2025 season for the St. Louis Cardinals, which was rough. It's rough. It's rough when your best player doesn't really, or at least your best pitcher doesn't really know what the goal for the season is in 2025.
Oh man, no, like I'm thinking of like driftwood, right? Like that's what the Cardinals are. They're on the river.
Well, it's funny too because
it doesn't look pretty, but they're on the river.
They're there, which
and they
is
play by
more
the
than
river.
most people can say.
Yeah.
Mozeliak is currently still president of baseball operations, all that, and we know who the next guy is. It's Chaim Bloom. Contract's already signed. They're bringing all this new people, all this new headcount. But at the same time, Mozeliak is speaking as if none of them are there, because he's saying things like, I want to leave this team with a clean slate. I want to set it up for the future for the next organization, as if they're not already there in the room with him. It's been really confusing and really frustrating. It seems like he doesn't want to make any major decisions because he doesn't want to set up Chaim Bloom for failure in the future. But Chaim Bloom is in the room with him. They could be making these decisions together, and instead they're just punting it all to 2026, calling this year a retool development, go for it year, because they also still think that they can win this year, which
they're going to shock the world.
Yeah, we're going to shock the world, which of course every team's going to say. Even the Marlins are probably in their dugout right now saying we're going to shock the world, right?
I don't think they are. I really don't think they are.
I don't know.
It's I hope so. I feel really bad going on this podcast just saying all these negative things about the Cardinals, and it's honestly I've actually been in a situation like, oh, you're right, the Cardinals, like a lot. And it's so frustrating. And this is actually one thing that I really reflected upon during COVID when the owners didn't want us to play, and during the lockout, it felt horrible that those who love the thing I love the most do not care for it. You know, and it's a really, really terrible feeling to be led by leaders who don't know how to lead and don't want to lead and are not interested in your best interest, right? So I have a lot of sympathy for everyone listening, and you guys are the best fans in baseball because you're still sticking around. You know, I'm sure you hate hearing that. You must hate it so much. You should just call this podcast "The Best Fans in Baseball."
There are many Cardinal podcasts that are playing on that name in some way. Yeah.
And actually, I do want to mention talking about birds. Fantastic. I remember getting this email being, what is this spam email I just got? I'm like, oh, right, that podcast. I was like, yeah. How did they pin me as that kind of guy? But all I can think of is a Far Side comic. Do you guys know what I'm going to refer to here?
I have no idea.
I'm a huge Far Side fan, but I'm not pulling it immediately.
So I have, I'm a huge Matthew Boyd fan. So I say essentially when we don't want to pick him up in fantasy, I say that we're Boyd watching. Mm-hmm. But they have Gary Larson has one that's BOID watching, which is like gangsters in the trees with binoculars. Boyd watching, you know.
Hey, watching Boyds.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, okay, let's say some Boyds. Look what I saw. And I just think about that with you guys, like talking about Boyds. Like that's.
I'm pretty sure we've done that exact. But hey, we're talking about Boyds over here.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so you know you can share it with your. With people inside the notes of if you want to see that Gary Larson comic. But at the end of the day, guys, look, you're going to be playing baseball this year. There will be some things that happen, some trades. Jordan Walker, I'm really excited for you because I think that you have not seen the best of Jordan Walker. I know I'm talking about a hitter, but that guy is a legitimate player that is just eventually going to find his own groove and soar. Quinn Matthews, when he shows up, is going to be fun. Tink Henson, Tekoa Roby, there are exciting things there. I don't care for Sem. I'm so sorry. Michael McGreevy, Gordon Graceffo, I do not care. It's about Quinn Matthews right now, and you're going to love Quinn Matthews when he arrives, so enjoy that.
Yeah, we certainly like to think that a 2026 year with Sonny Gray still there, assuming he continues to play well, and then Quinn Matthews, maybe Tink Hence, maybe McGreevy, Liberatore, that you start to see the future of a rotation that actually is fun to watch and has some real upside and not this like retirement parade of Gray and Michaelis and whatever, whatever Fetty is. So the future, there is still some brightness. There's a young guy too in the minors that I'm excited about, Chae-Win Lin, who is like a 6'7" guy from Korea that is really interesting, or Taiwan, I believe.
Taiwan,
yeah, Taiwan. That we're excited about. So
he's 6'7" and he sits high 90s. It's very, very impressive.
Oh
what
my
is he? 6'7", 188 pounds.
Yeah.
String bean.
Oh my gosh, sticks. Man, when did you guys sign him? Just now?
It was actually 2023. But
I think he had his first full year in Double-A last year.
Man, did I not write about this guy? Okay. So you might see him this year. That'd be cool.
Yeah. We'll see. He's still pretty young.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, we're hopeful that the new, that brought in the Mariners pitching development, pitching director, there's hopefully the future is brighter, but 2025, I think, as we've outlined pretty clearly on this show, no matter what the Cardinals are saying, it's probably going to be a tough year, but maybe it'll be a good development year. I guess we'll find out.
I'll call some people. Make sure it happens for you guys. Don't worry.
Oh, nice. All right.
No problem.
We've been a little down, and I want to turn that around just for a second. And I think we should. We're talking to Nick today. We should talk about Ryan Helsley for 1 second because he is actually a very, very good pitcher on our team. It looks like he's adding a new pitch. Just curious to hear your thoughts on if you could help us understand why he is so good, what he does well.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I pride myself on knowing every single starting pitcher. That doesn't generally mean relievers. However, because of PitcherList, I can go and look up Helsley right now and tell you exactly what I see in like 2 seconds. So what Helsley does, as you probably know, is that it's four-seamer and slider. And that slider being a 72% strike rate is super rare. When it comes to sliders and breaking balls, it's normally like you want to hit that 60% mark. If it's your number 2, you'd be really happy at 65. But a lot of pitchers in the majors don't have a fastball that they throw above a 70% strike rate. And in fact, that is 92nd percentile among all relievers in baseball. Actually, the top 350 batters faced from last year, but that's insane. Oh my gosh, 29% swing strike rate on it. You guys know this is the filthiest slider. Like throwing this at 89 consistently for strikes over the zone, that's crazy.
It was sitting 91 in a spring training game yesterday.
What are you supposed to do? What was it?
Yeah, it was sitting 91 in a spring training game yesterday.
Gosh. Oh man, so what was his fastball sitting?
It was triple digits.
So then you're gonna ask Nick. He throws 99 100. How does he have a sub 10% swing strike rate on that fastball, right? 39th percentile. I guarantee you there are guys throwing softer than him at that much higher swing strike rates on their four-seamers, right? So I'll tell you this. One, he should be getting more, but he doesn't throw it in a good spot. Helsley is more of just kind of like, here it is, come and get it. It is actually, looking at this, like PLV, we have him at 95th percentile as far as like grading a fastball. So it should be getting more whiffs. 6.6 extension is normal. His vert on the pitch, that is the induced vertical break, how much rise, it's 17 inches, which is normal. It probably, come to think of it, that's more likely dead zone given his velocity and arm angle, which means that it's not moving at in a direction that is surprising to hitters. So when that happens, then it's like, well, yeah, that's easier to connect with. And I'm looking at this right now. That's actually, this makes more sense. It's horizontal movement. So because of that, the swings that would normally be whiffs, they're going to be later on it. And it's actually the ball is going into that late bat. So that means he's making more contact than you'd expect on it, which means fewer whiffs. But it should be very weak contact. And guess what? It's not. All right, because it throws too hard. There's my analysis on the fly. Brian Helsley.
Hey, wonderful.
Thanks. I threw
that's why you're a pro.
Beautifully in the zone, and that's why the 27% swing strike rate. Nice. But if he's up higher, I mean, geez, he's just gonna get weaker contact over and over again with that fastball. It might be a little frustrating, I would imagine, watching Ryan Helsley at times, because that ball can probably, he can allow these hits. They're just like, oh, come on. That's
when he gets beat, it's like dinked and doinked left and right. Yeah. You know,
yes.
yeah.
Right. So that's why I'm saying I get it now, because we have a stat called ICR, which is better than hard hit rate and barrel rate because it encompasses all the good outcomes for hitters, not just the extremely good ones, but the ones that are above average for them, right? But does include flares. So I imagine a lot of those are flares because he has such a good home run rate. He doesn't allow home runs because this is a fastball that is moving laterally, not up, so it's not giving them that extra rise that could turn into a home run. So yeah, Ryan Helsley is absolutely something you guys should be trading. You should deal him away.
Well, yeah, we're trying to win kind of this year, so we'll see if that happens or not.
What was that? Did you say kind of?
Yeah, we've been saying since the end of last offseason that if Ryan Helsley throws a single pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals in 2025, it's a failure from the front office standpoint. And here we go.
I mean, I think we have to. I want to see Ryan Helsley and Eric Fetty in an Orioles uniform, and I want any one of their minor league guys to come this way.
Oh my gosh!
But I don't think it's going to happen.
Orioles getting Eric Fetty is the funniest, most Orioles thing ever.
Just like the Cardinals getting Eric Fetty was very.
If you guys don't know, we put out an article in the Cardinals. That is true. That's very true. We put out an article in November because we have a source, very good, trusted source on what's going on with the Orioles. That their GM, the new GM, has all this money. Everyone's so excited, right? Oh my gosh, you're going to spend all this money in Baltimore. If you've noticed, they haven't. What's going on? Oh, legitimately, Mike Elias prides himself on the teams like the Rays and wants to construct a team like the Rays and refuses to spend the money that has been given the okay from the owner. Unbelievable.
So it's actually not insane. The own. That's almost worse. So you can justify
it is.
The owners.
Worse.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible.
Oh my gosh. Get him out of there.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that.
How do the owners like?
And the thing is, we put this out. trusted article. Like, wait, I know this. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be breaking the story if I didn't firsthand know. And all the backlash, right? Like everyone's like, "There's no way this is true. You have one source, blah blah blah, this and that." And it's like, watch them sign, Max Fried tomorrow and stuff like that. And what happened this offseason, guys? They got Charlie Morton.
Yeah.
They're expecting like Charlie Morton to pitch like 180 innings. It's the only way that this really makes sense. I don't think he can do that.
Well, no. The only way it makes sense is because the guy's like, I won't spend money. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, there's no way he's not going to do that. But I mean, sure, that's going to help. Like I'm happy for them. They got Charlie Morton, right? But this is not going to work out well for the Orioles.
As a fellow bird team, we'd like to talk about the Orioles and the Blue Jays a lot.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh,
they're more interesting teams this year than the Cardinals. Although the Blue Jays have their own set of problems as well.
But honestly, I wish the Orioles were purple because then it would be blue, red, and purple, like the actual three hues combined.
Yeah, it'd be beautiful.
Too bad, missed opportunity.
All right, Nick, we're gonna wrap this up. So thank you so much for your breakdown of all of the Cardinals. We do want to, if we have a little bit more time, got to run a game with you real quick. Yes. So this is something that we normally play. I've only ever done it with just Ben. We haven't done it with a guest, and it's normally very Cardinal focused. But I'm expanding it for the sake of having you as a part of this show. So the name of this game is Who Is This Guy?
Oh my god!
And what I have here is I have a list of facts about a starting pitcher. These facts are going to start incredibly vague and get more and more specific the longer it takes you guys to guess who they are. Now, these are very high-level facts, and every one of these pitchers is an incredibly well-known guy. Okay, so I'm not pulling from like the depths of.
You could have done it with starting pitchers. That would have been fun, but now I'm just messing with you. All right. Yeah. So are these active or
no?
Or,
well, could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to say a fact. We'll have Ben start. He'll make a guess. If he doesn't get it, we'll go to you. I'll give another fact. You make a guess, and we'll go back and forth. And then usually Ben gets it around 2 or 3 facts, but we'll see how this goes, and we'll see how long this takes because I got a couple.
Can't wait to disappoint you, Nate.
I don't know. I never know if I calibrate this too easy or too hard, so we'll figure it out together. So Ben, I'm going to start with you. This player was born on September 10th, 1963 in Walnut Creek, California.
Walnut Creek, California, 1963.
Mm-hmm.
Walnut Creek, California. Former Cardinals pitcher.
Oh, no.
Oh, this is just a pitcher.
This is just a pitcher.
Jeez.
Incredibly.
I'm like, oh gosh, how do you,
Incredibly well-known pitcher.
An incredibly well-known pitcher. I don't know. I'm terrible. I can't do head math. Let's say Greg Maddux.
That is incorrect. All right, Nick.
Yeah.
This player throughout their career in no particular order played for the Giants, the Diamondbacks, the Astros, the Yankees, the Mariners, and the Expos.
Yeah, so this was actually my first guess. I think it's Randy Johnson.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
It's Randy Johnson.
I was actually going to guess Randy Johnson.
Were you going to? Nice. Yeah. All right, so you got it after 2. Nick gets a point. Randy Johnson. Again, they get increasingly easier. So the next one was he is the 38th most innings in baseball history at 4,135. Next was second most strikeouts all time. And then the final clue was he once killed a bird with a fastball. All right, we'll go on to the next one. Nick, you'll start this one. This player was born November 9th, 1935 in Omaha, Nebraska.
In Omaha, Nebraska, 1935.
Yep.
Luis Tiant.
I'm sorry?
Luis Tiant.
Nope. All right.
No idea.
Famous Nebraskan.
This player signed his first MLB contract after spending 4 months with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, wait. Bob Gibson, right?
It is Bob Gibson.
That's what I was like, Luis Tiant. I meant Bob Gibson.
I had to get Bob in there.
I'm so upset with myself. I meant Bob Gibson.
Oh man. Well, that's a point to Ben.
You got it, Ben. Oh man.
I was wondering if you'd
remember. Red Sox guy. Jesus, Nick.
I was wondering if you'd remember the Harlem Globetrotter thing. It's such a fun fact about Gibson. So a couple other stats for him. He had he was known for his intimidating presence. He hit 102 batters in his career, which actually is quite low. It's 129th overall, but considering the amount of pitches he threw, like he's pretty low. Randy Johnson is actually the modern era leader in hit batsmen.
Can't be terrifying like Randy Johnson without hitting a dude.
Yeah. It's so like the Bob Gibson thing is fascinating. I mean, that's like a core part of his whole aura was that like, oh, he might hit you at any point. And partly is that he did have some wildness in his in his game, but like comparatively speaking, he very rarely hit people. He was actually pretty good at not doing that, but I think it's actually even more impressive that he had the reputation of hitting guys and didn't really do it that much. My last fact on him was had such a dominant season in 1968, the mound was lowered. So,
man, I'm so upset at myself right now.
You're the pitcher. All right, Ben, here you go. This is the last one. We'll let you get out of here, Nick. This player was born November 6th, 1887 in Humboldt, Kansas.
Humboldt, Kansas. I feel like you're trying to pull a fast one over me. I don't know if this timing lines up. I'm going to say Babe Ruth.
Not Babe Ruth.
Okay. Damn.
That would have been a fun one, though.
I know he's from a cornfield. I don't know year or anything.
Just born in a cornfield. I think most baseball players in the 1800s or in 1900s or early 1900s were born in cornfields. All right, Nick. He debuted with the Washington Senators at the age of 20.
Yeah, that would be Walter Johnson. That was so okay. I was 3 for 3 on the first guess. I just want to let this be known. Okay, just by the dates. You made it so it was a super well-known one. I'm thinking like no one's doing from 35. I'm like, I don't know. It's got to be the Cardinal guy. Oh, that's Luis Tiant. No, Nick, it's Bob Gibson.
Yeah,
that's one more in there. I can do one more because I want to.
That was my last one.
Okay,
Nick, so
I was ready to pull out Mark Mulder. But I guess we never got to that.
See, that's what I never know because like just going on like personally like birthdays, I never have any idea. And there's so many dominant pitchers in all of these eras. He could pull anyone. But obviously you guys.
I mean, I was just like, okay, who's like the oldest major pitcher? It's like, okay, everyone's like Walter Johnson. It's a Christy Mathewson, Walter Johnson. Right?
Well, my last fact for Walter Johnson was he was nicknamed the Big Train and was ranked the best pitcher of all time by PitcherList in 2022.
That's right. We did. We did. Yeah, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I'll say this. I'm not a historian of baseball. I'm someone who really started to jump into this in 2014 and 15, and then I just got to do it now. And everyone knows all this stuff about the history of the game and all this. And it's like, you know what, you guys, I trust that because he was such a game changer when he showed up, and it was absurd with Walter Johnson. I probably would say, I would probably say like Pedro or Randy Johnson personally, but really the greatest pitcher ever. I know you guys are gonna hate this. It's Jacob deGrom.
I want him.
Timmy Kershaw, but like it's Jacob deGrom.
Kind of hard to argue with, like from a pure stuff standpoint. Like I kind of agree. And
I was just reading he's going to like take a step back this year from like throw high 90s instead of triple digits. And I think he's going to have a dominant year.
I think this is the thing I've been trying to say is like, he has a healthy elbow, guys.
Yeah.
He has a healthy elbow.
I just need to share this. Walter Johnson had 666 games started in MLB.
So we had to complete the pact. We had to name him number 1.
That's right.
Of course.
Right? Guys, of course not. We're not. Please. Do not consider us those. Okay. I want to say, everyone, really quickly, if you are still listening to this podcast, first of all, you're awesome. Second, if you haven't rated and reviewed this podcast for Nate and Ben, what are you doing? You obviously love the show. You want it to continue to grow. That is the easiest way to make this podcast grow and do more. So take a second. It's so easy. Just leave 5 stars. Leave just a couple words. It goes so far for these guys. They deserve it.
Well, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. We super appreciate that, and we've already talked about PitcherList, but if anybody wants to follow you elsewhere, what's the best way to follow your work?
Just go to pitcherlist.com. I do every day a recap of every starting pitcher. I also do live streams on playback.tv, which I'm crossing my fingers. The whole idea of that is eventually they have streaming of live games, so we'll have the Cardinals live stream on there at some point, we hope. I'm there at 10 a.m. 12 p.m. every single weekday morning Eastern time. Come on by, hang out, ask any question you have. I'm just
awesome
doing my work.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Nick. It's been awesome having you.
Oh, thank you guys. This is great.
Okay, and we are back. Ben, what did you think of the call with Nick?
Yeah, it's anytime you talk about the Cardinals and the Cardinals in 2025 and their future prospects and everything that's going on, it's hard not to get a little bit bummed, which is kind of why I forced the Ryan Helsley conversation. I was like, we need something nice to talk about. But I think there were some nuggets of things that Cardinals fans should really be excited. Obviously, Nick is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to pitching and breaking them down and just like an interesting way to look at it. So I was just trying to take notes and keep up with the conversation. But I also want to thank Nick again for making time and hopping on the show. And that was really, really fun.
Yeah. Like part of the reason we wanted to have him on this show is that depth of knowledge and just that ability to talk about pitching in a way that I think we wish we were able to. Just his like rapid fire stats and the density of pitch metrics was pretty impressive and I think, gave me a lot of insight onto what to look for here in 2025. Great guy, a lot of fun. If we have him on the show again, I need to do a little bit more challenging of a game, but still, that was fun. So Hambone, before we talk a little bit more about the Cardinal news, I have to ask, so this could be the last episode of talking about birds, right? Because you're about to participate in quite an athletic endeavor this weekend. You're running your first half marathon. Now, you participated at a half marathon with me last fall, but you ran, as you were still ramping up, you ran a 10K and I did the half. Now,
that's right.
This is your first half.
Yeah.
And it's also at elevation, not quite as high as Denver, but still it's at, what do you say, 4,000 feet, something like that at Moab.
We're doing it at Moab National Park. Yep.
It sounds beautiful. How are you feeling about it?
I was feeling more confident a few weeks ago. I'm feeling less confident. I kind of went from like, I think I'm going to go for such and such time. And now I'm like, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to run the whole thing. That is my only goal. If it takes me 4 hours, I don't care. I'm just going to try and stay healthy and try and keep moving. And that is literally it. It is in a beautiful part of our country. Yeah. So I'm going to try to take that in. I got my goos and stroopwafels and gels and all that bullshit. So I'm going to fuel up and hope it goes well. But I've got some long runs under my belt. They've gone fine. I'm trying to not overthink it and just be present and do the damn thing.
Yeah. Do you listen to primarily music while running, or are you? You're shaking your head. Yes, mostly music.
Yeah, it's a blend of like driving dance music and like hardcore gangster rap. Like I kind of lock in to the dance music, keep myself going, and then when I need to pick me up, put on some like early 2000s 50 Cent or something like that to give me a little bit of a push. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I do music. I usually start with podcasts and we'll end on music. Because my whole theory around running is I'm trying to like completely escape my body as much as possible and just run and like not feel anything. I always think it's funny because you see, someone might drive by, see me running. I have headphones in. They think like, oh, he's listening to like, but it's actually like, in the recent ROM hack of Pokemon Fire Red, the ability to
I cannot lift, run, ski. I cannot do anything like that while listening to a podcast. I find it, I just cannot do it. So it is. I hope that other people out there are listening to this podcast while they're doing stuff, but I cannot do it. It needs to be music for me.
It depends on the like skiing for sure. I can't imagine doing anything other than solely focusing entirely on what's in front of you. I mean, I struggle at it even with that level of focus. But for running, especially where I like run in park, I don't really have to worry about like cars and things like that. I do only run with one headphone in because I like to hear the real world around me. I don't want to be completely like detached. But
I am noise canceling volume all the way up.
You're gonna get crushed by a car.
Bring it.
Boing, just bounces off of you. Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, good luck. Interested to hear how it goes. I've done 2 of them, and one of them I hurt my leg, and it was a whole thing. And the other one I crushed my target goal by a lot. So I've kind of had both experiences as far as that goes. So hopefully you have the latter. But either way, you'll be happy that you did it when it's done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it being done.
That's a huge part of the satisfaction of the whole thing is that it's done. All right. So we've already talked about the Cardinals with Nick for over an hour on this show. So we're going to keep the Cardinals section light, but there's a couple pieces that we wanted to talk about still on this episode as we really get into the middle end of spring training. What do you got for us, man?
Well, yeah, I think probably the biggest news out of spring so far, or at least this week, is that J.J. Weatherholt, the Cardinals' #1 prospect and future, hopefully, superstar, was just sent down to the minors. He is no longer a part of big league camp. I think it makes sense. He had what I thought was a pretty good showing. I think with the glove, what he was doing on the bases, he had 3 stolen bases, which was pretty exciting. And he was walking at over a 20% clip. And, he had a 0.71 BABIP. So I think, short sample size, only 26 plate appearances. The luck didn't go his way. I'm not overreacting to that. But, when you're looking at the things, I think the way that he handled his at-bats, like I said, that walk rate, the fact that he did pop a home run, the fact that he looked good on the bases, everything I was, everything looks really good to me. I expect him to probably go to AA or AAA and perform very well. And I know there was some chatter in the Bird Score today about how he should just stay down in the minors. He should develop. I think that as soon as he is cooked, as soon as he is ready, and as soon as the Cardinals are ready to give him every day at bats, he should come up. And I think that we, Cardinals fans, will see J.J. Weatherholt in MLB at some point in 2025. Hopefully it's not due to injury, and it's more due to him just forcing the conversation because he is hitting that well, and he is proving that he is outmatching AA or AAA. But I think it's very likely that he comes back up. It's just a matter of when does that happen.
Yeah, I mean, a 0.071 BABIP is hilariously bad. I mean, it's only 26 plate appearances, but it's just minor regression, and his final spring stats look a lot better than they ultimately did, and he
still had a 308 on base percentage with that.
With a point, a 20% walk rate's gonna go a long way for that. But it makes a lot of sense to me because of the current situation of the St. Louis Cardinals. Because if he makes a major league roster right now, he's either a utility player, which I said last week there is some value to having him there, but it's pretty standard. You want him to get a guy like this. Once he's up, he's playing every day. I get that. So if that's the case, then right now he's just taking at-bats away from other guys that we want to see that have more MLB tenure. And really the decision needs to be made a little bit sooner on guys like that. Gorman and
I think
Donovan,
Gorman, with Walker his knee being inflamed and whatnot, I think Gorman is the most important player to watch in spring training. From like a Cardinals 2025 point of view. Yeah. Is he a guy? Can he stick at second? Can he turn his bat around at all? Can he be a relevant major league hitter? I really think he becomes the biggest point of emphasis just on how bad his year was last year, how highly touted he has been. And, is he a second baseman? Is he going to take over third base when X team trades for Nolan Arenado a couple of months into the season? Who knows? But I think all eyes are on him, and then hopefully Walker when he comes back, healthy and ready to start swinging again.
Yeah. So we'll see. I, like you, expect he will be up in 2025. But I think probably if not, that might be a good thing because that means Gorman's established himself. Maybe Sajaci has, or there's just no room for him yet. And because he is so young, he just drafted last year. They don't need to rush him up. These things will work themselves out. And if he ends up having to spend a little bit extra time in the minors while waiting for a spot, that's an okay problem to have. That's what most really good teams have, is you've got a good lineup and you got guys waiting for spots too. That's where you want to be. So hopefully we get there.
And we have instructors now in the minor leagues so that he can continue to develop.
I refuse to believe that.
Okay.
Frankly, I don't accept it. But yeah, you mentioned Jordan Walker. We haven't seen him this week. He seems close. He just did running exercises. I expect at-bats again soon. So we should have more on that next week.
Look out for that sprinkler, bro.
Look out for that sprinkler, bro. All right.
One other Cardinals news thing to talk about was that Katie Woo had an interview with Yadier Molina, and he talked about a lot of things, spending time with his family, his son Yanu playing high school baseball. His family had just moved to Texas. They left Puerto Rico and moved to Texas. And then the big part of the story, and that was all kind of encompassing why he has not really been around the Cardinals, even though he is currently technically a Cardinals employee, which I think Cardinals fans are confused by, but he kind of laid out why that is. And I think it's just weird that he signed that deal, but he's Yachty and he's going to do his own thing. The real data point from this conversation with Katie Woo was that he wants to manage an MLB, which we've heard in different ways over the past few months. He made a point of emphasis that he would manage anywhere in the MLB. His Cardinals would be his priority, but I think he even referenced that if the Cubs came calling, he would do the Cubs as well. And what I think is interesting is I think it's highly likely that Ali Marmal's fate is directly tied to John Mozeliak, and that it would just make a lot. And I have no disdain for Ali Marmal, but it would make a lot of sense that Chaim Bloom would bring in his own guy, and he's one of those guys, Molina or Pujols. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It would be obviously a very popular move in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Can both of those guys be a part of the dugout? Pujols and Molina in the dugout managing the Cardinals in some way?
I'm Batman. We're both Batman.
I mean, every ship has two captains, right?
Yeah.
Every government has two presidents. Why not put two managers?
Mm-hmm.
More realistically, maybe Pujols is the manager, Yachty is the bench coach. I don't know, but I wonder if something like that would happen. But it's very interesting, and like I said, I think this is probably Ali Marmal's last year of managing the Cardinals, just because he's not Chaim Bloom's guy.
Yeah, it's very, like you said, it's very standard for the new guy to bring in their own guy. But I find it hard to believe maybe that like Yachty would be Chaim's guy, But I don't know. Yachty's one of the greatest of all time, so you can also see
Chaim Bloom brought in Alex Cora, who had zero relationship before that started as well.
True. So yeah, it is interesting. Both these guys, Albert and Yachty, throughout their careers, as we all followed it. There was all this like, will you manage? And they both had different answers over different times of their careers. Both, I think, at points saying, no, I would never manage. I can't imagine that. And now they're both like, put me in, coach, give me a job. Yeah. But they both can't. Well, except for the co-Batman theory that I think we're going to start pushing. It seems unlikely they both end up with the Cardinals.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, so we're gonna do our continue our coverage of the other teams of the NL Central with the Brewers. But before we do want to remind our listeners that this show is listener supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Check it out. It's a great time. The bird score's been popping lately as the season has been picking up. Just a really good place to have direct conversations with other Cardinal fans and listeners of the show. And like Nick said, which we really appreciate him doing our plugs. Check out we did not ask him to do that. Check out, leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really does help. And, tell your friends and family. Now's a good time to get into the show. And Hambone, where else should people find us online?
Yeah, we have all the socials. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram, TikTok, all that crap at Talking About Birds or Talk About Birds or some form of that. I don't even know anymore. You can listen to this show on Spotify. We're also posting a video of this show on YouTube with audio. If you are enjoying that, say something in YouTube, because we're kind of just putting it out there, and I think people might like it. It might be nice to see someone else's face this week with Nick joining the pod. But let us know. You can find all of that podcast information, t-shirts, everything at talkingaboutbirds.com. Of course, you can email us thoughts and questions to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, check out the YouTube feed. We're putting a little more effort into that. I think a lot of people like that. So check it out. All right. Hambone, the Brew Crew, the team that has won the Central several years in a row now, and kind of doing what the Cardinals wish they were doing over and over and over, which is putting together these sort of mid-market teams of homegrown and really well-timed acquisitions. Just overall, I hate to say it, but they've been very, very well ran. They haven't had much deep playoff success, which has been to the delight of Cardinal fans over and over. But you can't argue with their regular season results, and might be another year of that this year. How are you feeling about the Brewers?
Yeah, I think, the Brewers are really like every year. They are kind of relying on high percentile outcomes. I think that their pitching is the big question mark this year. This team looks a lot different than it did last year, for many reasons. The biggest thing is that Willy Adames is now a San Francisco Giant, arguably the best player on that team before Jackson Chourio came around for the last handful of years. They also lost Frankie Montas, Hobie Milner, Joe Ross, Colin Ray, Gary Sanchez, Wade Miley, and Bryce Wilson. That is all the players that have been subtracted from their team. And like I said, that makes for a very different looking team going forward this year. Their starting rotation outside of Freddie Peralta is either names that we're not used to or are new. Freddie Peralta will be their ace. Tobias Myers, Nestor Cortez, who they made a trade with for Devin Williams with the Yankees, Aaron Savale, and Jose Quintana. And then, like I said, Devin Williams is gone. Trevor McGill. How do you say that guy's name? Trevor?
I think it's just Trevor.
It's just spelled funny. Is their new closer. So it's really this
Trevor.
Pitching squad their staff is, like I said, basically brand spanking new. So I think it's really hard to predict, how are these guys all going to work together? Is Nestor Cortez going to have a healthy season? Is he going to be good? Is Aaron Savali, is he still relevant in baseball? He had a fine year last year. Can the Brewers help him develop? And Quintana, love him, Cardinal legend, but he's 36 years old, and they're expecting him to be in their starting five. So I think a lot of question marks for this team, which I guess makes you want to talk about the offense, which is maybe a little more exciting this year than it has been.
I mean, can you imagine relying on a 36-year-old for your rotation?
It's stupid. It's just stupid.
I could never. Yeah, there's their rotation once the centerpiece of their success is now a big question mark. Now, Tobias Myers, I think, is going to be pretty good. Freddie Peralta should be what he usually has been, which is good, near ace, could put it together and have a real breakout year. But I think any team would be happy with Freddie Peralta. After that, you do get into a lot of question marks. So that's like the Cardinals have been for a while now. Probably a lot of their success or failure is going to come through how does that starting rotation manage before handing the ball off to their still pretty good bullpen. And they're most likely going to win their games, though, by just outscoring the other team, because their offense, they did lose Adames, but their offense still should be competitive.
Yeah. And I think before we start talking about the offense, we should talk about Brandon Woodruff is expected to be back at some point this season.
Yeah.
If you remember, he is recovering from shoulder surgery and should be with the big league club at some point. Going over to the position player side, Jackson Churio is the guy here. He is going to be batting leadoff, playing right field. He is 21 years old.
Just turned 21,
future.
like last week. And I'd also read that he might be batting second. They're going to bounce him around maybe a little bit. It makes a lot of sense as the power develops for him to not just do leadoff. I think ultimately he will be the prototypical middle of the order type bat.
I think, he is how these Brewers stay relevant. Him becoming a superstar, all-star level player year after year. And then around him, you have Christian Yelich, who's coming back, likely to be a DH. And, if he's healthy, he'll probably continue to hit the ball hard and walk. Can he elevate the ball?
It's all about that back, like Megan Trainor once said.
I don't know that reference.
All about that. Well, she has that song, All About That Bass.
All about that bass. Oh, that was bad. William Contreras. He's good.
Yeah, the Yachty of today, right? He's
he's a much better hitter than Yachty ever was.
Yeah. Well, there's some fun comps with like the Contreras brothers, and he's the youngest, and he's probably the best, and is the best catcher in baseball right now. I mean, who doesn't like William Contreras? He just seems awesome.
Yeah. He should continue to be awesome. I still cannot believe they got him in that deal with the Braves and the A's.
Yeah, and now
it's so
Sean Murphy is like hurt again. You know, the Braves have a number of interesting young catching prospects, so he may be out sooner than later. And out of nowhere, the Brewers end up winning that trade by a landslide almost immediately.
Really, really silly. Rhys Hoskins opted in for another year of Brewers ball. Rhys Hoskins, he kind of is the guy that he is. He'll hit some doinks and that's about it. He's a terrible first baseman. But I don't know, he can walk a little bit. He can hit the ball hard. He's a fine player. And I think the other big change is that Joey Ortiz is going to be there starting. He's kind of taking over the mantle that Willy Adames left. So he will be there starting shortstop. He had a pretty surprising year last year. I think he performed better than I thought he was going to perform. See if he can carry that over and play shortstop, a more demanding position.
I like Ortiz. He's another good example of the type of guy that makes a team like this successful. He's not going to hurt you anywhere in his game, and he still has some room to grow. So I could see him being one of those sneaky guys that ends up with like a 4.5 WAR season built off of just kind of being good to above average at everything in baseball, and it all just stacks up and he becomes quite valuable.
Yeah. Outside of that, the Brewers do have a couple of prospects that could impact the big league club this year. Jefferson Cuero, who is their highly rated catching prospect. We'll see. Maybe he can, he's got a decent bat. Maybe he'll split time with Contreras. Contreras taking over some time at first base, depending on how Rhys Hoskins plays. And they also have Jacob. It's a real Polish last name.
Mizorowski.
Thank you. Who's a pitcher that should be affecting the big league club at some point this year. He had a pretty nice season in AAA. He's actually, I'm looking at his spring numbers right now. He's getting beat up in spring, but still highly touted and highly likely to impact the big league club this year.
Yeah. Some people think he may ultimately end up a bullpen arm, but the type of bullpen arm that is elite. So we'll still see where he ends up. Obviously, the preference is that he's a starter. But either way, I do suspect that he'll be an impactful major league player at some point.
What's funny is that the projected record, they are still under 500. This is telling you how weak the, at least Fangraphs projection system thinks that the NL Central is. They are projected at 80.9 and 81.1, which is essentially a 500 ball club. Nate, are you taking the over or the under on that?
I feel like I gotta go over on that. I do think this offense is going to be good. Keep an eye out on Garrett Mitchell, former first round pick. Should get a full run this season. Some good batted ball metrics. I think they're going to put together enough of an offense to win some games. I think they have real reason to be concerned about their starting pitching and just pitching in general. But every year they just keep doing it. They keep getting what they need out of their starting pitching to get it done. And I think I'm not necessarily saying they're going to win the Central this year. I think, obviously the only team we haven't talked about yet is the Cubs, and they are projected to do that. I'm probably leaning more towards Cubs at this point to take the Central, but I still won't be surprised if it's the Brewers. And so I'm gonna take the over on essentially 81 wins. I think they'll end up above 500.
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to the two older guys on the team. Does Christian Yelich, can he stay healthy? Can he start 130 or 140 games, somewhere around there? And does Brandon Woodruff come back healthy and effective? Because if he does, he's the best pitcher on this team. And if he doesn't, you're really relying on Savali, Quintana to hold up a pretty large pillar for them. So I'm going to say if the old guys can stick around, they're going to break that 81 win mark. But I wouldn't put a lot of money on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, next week we'll talk about the Cubs, and then we'll have real baseball to talk about after that.
Let's go.
Yeah. Little bit of league news. What do you want to hit?
Yeah, there's some pitcher injuries are happening right now. We talked about a little bit with Nick, but Garrett Cole and Luis Heel go down. Garrett Cole for the rest of the year. Luis Heel shut down with a lat strain. Grayson Rodriguez of the Orioles also goes down, starts the season on the IL. And I think really if you're a Cardinals fan, obviously you hate to see these types of guys go down. But as we talked about a little bit with Nick, and I think it just is obvious, if you are a team that employs Eric Fetty and you see these pitcher injuries going around, makes a lot of sense to jump on that opportunity. And we'll see if and when a team tries to push in and pry Fetty away from the Cardinals, who are in a confusing position. But you'd have to think there's a team out there that is in a win now mode that might be interested. We talked about the Orioles a little bit. I don't think the Orioles would do this. But if the Cardinals could try to pry away somebody like Heston Kierstad, who is a player that just doesn't have a position on that team, I would love to see something like that. Not sure that Fetty for Kierstad 1-to-1 gets it done. But I think trying to go get somebody like that, making a deal like that would really be fun and interesting and give us something to talk about.
Kobe Mayo having a horrible spring.
Well,
he's going.
Kind of the same player as Heston. He's a bat first guy that doesn't really have a position, and the Cardinals are in the spot right now where I think take a chance on a guy like that. We have at bats to provide.
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine that the Orioles would be even close to trading Mayo for a guy like Fetty straight up, but who knows? Maybe they could be desperate.
Well, I'm kind of leaning towards Kierstad because he's a little older.
Yeah,
doesn't really have a position. They just signed 2 outfielders. I don't know what the Orioles are doing exactly, but he doesn't seem like he has a path.
If I'm Mozeliak with the announcement of the Cole news on the heels of the heel news, I'm given like a 2-hour, I don't want to be the first one at the door, knocking after, but you definitely want to be there saying hey, what's up?
I do think the Yankees, a lot of people are going to be talking about Sandy Alcantara and some of those other pitchers that are out there as well. Dylan Cease has been tossed around. I think because the Yankees not having a ton of prospect capital right now, they might weirdly be a good match for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, I've seen and read some of the same that they to get an Alcantara or a Cease, they probably have to trade from the major league roster, and they probably don't want to do that right now.
Right.
So yeah, good lineup. I Orioles, Grayson, so far it doesn't seem like it's a major injury. It's not uncommon for pitchers to start the season on the IL because something gets uncovered during spring. They miss a few weeks and then they have a fine season, So they're probably not the alarm bells going off there, quite like what the Yankees are
without Grayson Rodriguez still on the team and healthy, they still need pitching. So I still think it makes sense.
That's true.
I'm curious if this will push them over the edge of trying to make something happen, but probably not. As we talked about with Nick, they are weirdly ran from a prospect capital standpoint.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep on moving. The A's are in agreement with right fielder Lawrence Butler on a 7-year, $65.5 million extension. Really happy for Lawrence Butler, who is a real breakout. I guess you could argue he broke out last year, but a real pick to click this season. The A's make themselves better, and they also kind of fend off the conversations around them not spending any money. So I think it's a win-win-win for everybody, and especially for Lawrence Butler, who is now generationally wealthy.
Yeah, I think this got 1 year of free agency and secures all the rest of the arbitration and everything. And I mean, this is exactly what we've been wanting the Cardinals to do with a bunch of guys. And Lawrence Butler, I'm a big fan. He really only had 55, 60% of a really awesome season, which was last year, the second half, a little bit longer than that, but essentially that after some really good underlying metrics for about a year before that. So they pounced on it. He performed at the major league level. They extended him $65 million. That's not going to kill them, even if he totally busts. But probably he doesn't. And it's great. So it's exactly what the smart teams are doing. I hate to praise the Athletics, but we separate the athletic management and player group from the ownership. This is a great move.
Yeah. Do this to Mason win. The Dodgers signed Dave Roberts to a 4-year extension, an average annual value of $8.1 million that surpasses the $8 million AAV on Craig Counsell's 5-year deal with the Cubs, which I love. It's just the competitiveness of these people is hilarious.
Yeah, give me 0.1. Yeah.
Just barely more. He is the highest paid manager in baseball. And I think Dave Roberts is clearly good at his job, managing personalities, everything he does for them. So, yeah.
I mean, they're pulling pranks over there. Remember how much he pranked Ohtani? He filled his car with balloons or something.
What a great prank.
That's worth $8 million.
0.1.
Come on. 8.1 million. You're doing pranks. You're pranking the most. Come on. We're paying for pranks around here.
The vibes better be good in Dodgers spring training. If it wasn't, that would be a serious problem, but they seem to be good. The Rays owner, Stu Sternberg, is facing pressure to sell from fellow owners and Rob Manfred in the commissioner's office. I think that, it's easy to compare this to the A's situation. When you look at the A's situation, I think from an MLB owner standpoint, they want to bring in another market. They're essentially considering the Bay Area oversaturated with 2 teams, so that's why they're moving to Vegas. Tampa Bay is a large market. Baseball should work there, and I think it's interesting to see that the other owners and MLB at large has finally had it with Stu Sternberg and his way of going about it. I have to imagine that the stadium situation is just pushing it over the edge. And I think that MLB should be embarrassed that we have 2 teams playing in minor league stadiums this year. I don't really care the reason that happened, but it is embarrassing. But I think this is really interesting. I think this is probably good for baseball. Hopefully we bring in a Steve Cohen-like figure who is not, a criminal, but somebody who wants to come in and win. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's also, I know expansion is on the horizon, but maybe this is the path that moves the Rays to Portland or something like that. I know you feel strongly they could be successful in Tampa. There are definitely successful teams in smaller markets than that too. And so I don't want to be the guy calling for any city to lose their team. But you look at the where the league is heading. There are more cities that want teams than there are going to be available. Someone is probably going to move also in the future, and so it might make sense for it to be the Rays.
To look into the crystal ball, I really think the Rays will stay just because of the size of that media market. And MLB will be very keen on keeping that part of Florida. But we'll see.
Yeah.
A final piece of news: The Athletics announced that they are going to wear Las Vegas patches on their arms during their stay in Sacramento. They posted on X a picture of it. I find it just completely silly, and I think that I hate John Fisher. That's really all I need to say.
Yeah. Well, did you see similarly bad branding? I'm sure you saw the new hats that are going around, the overlap hats.
Tatas.
Anals. If you haven't seen what we're talking about, look it up. They're called the overlap hats, right?
I don't know, Nate. They're so stupid.
It's as if their graphic designer forgot that they had a new hat design due, and they just clicked and dragged two hats together and just said, sure, I'll submit this, and then somehow it made it through every single step of the process and is being produced. Or this is like a clever viral, like we're going to intentionally release something stupid to get people talking. That might be giving them too much credit, because
you're giving them too much credit.
It's deeply stupid, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just zoom in on each one, look at each one. They're all stupid in their own way. It's incredible.
Yes, they are.
We can't have see-through pants this year. At least we get to laugh at these stupid hats.
Bad hats. All right, that's all I got for league news, Nady.
All right, and we did our game with Nick already, so this is going to wrap up this episode. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, talkingaboutbirds.com for the links and everything. We appreciate your support. Hambone, there is going to be Major League Baseball played next week in
That's right.
Tokyo. So are you going to get up for it?
Maybe.
It's 6:10 a.m. for me, so I might do it.
Probably not. If I'm totally honest, I'm not a morning guy. Even getting up at my normal time is hard for me. So probably not.
That's how I usually am as well. But I don't know. I kind of want to watch like Roki pitch.
That does sound fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
The matchups are going to be awesome.
Like I stay up late for the West Coast games. I don't usually get up. Maybe have some coffee and watch the baseball at 6 a.m. I don't know. There's something nice about that. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe. But all right, so we'll be back next week as always. Thanks again to Nick. Hope you all enjoyed that. And until next week, let's go Jordan Walker's knee getting healthy.
Yes, please.